Alright, so it's been a minute since I worked on this project, but I figured it's about time I jump back in. So where I left off, I had kind of established a visual direction that I liked, so now it's just taking that visual direction and applying it to everything else. And as of right now, those things are billboards, magazine ads, t-shirt design, a new shoebox, and possibly a new hang tag. You know, like the stickers that are attached to the new van shoes whenever you get them, something like that. So I'm thinking I want to start with the billboard designs first. Honestly, as of right now, I don't really have a great idea of where to start with those. So I'm thinking that's going to be the hardest one to do. So I guess if I get that out of the way, everything else should come pretty easily. At least that's what I'm thinking as of right now anyways. So it's time to get all our resources back out and get to designing. Alrighty, so I think I'm ready to get started. I actually printed out a piece of paper and then cut it, and then I actually attached some extra onto the side. I want all the elements to kind of match the proportions of the image, of the canvas size, and since billboards are technically a little bit longer than you would typically expect, I wanted to make sure that this was longer so that way it could be taller, so that way whenever we cut out elements like, you know, this, for instance, it's not too big for the canvas size and it looks kind of wonky. That's kind of what I'm thinking. I hope I don't have to make this any bigger than it already is, but if I need to, I can do that. I'm just hoping that I don't necessarily have to do that because that means I have to do more math and I don't want to do that because that's dumb. So with that being said, the easiest thing to do would basically just be to take this, put it in the center, and then build something out around it, just like I've already previously done. I think that'd be pretty easy and a pretty safe way to kind of get this project done. But I do want to try to experiment a little bit, just so the billboards, the posters, the social media posts, the magazines, you know, whatever we're doing, still feels like it has its own unique look or idea, while still looking like it's a part of the same campaign. So if I can't think of anything else that I want to do, I think this will be a safe bet that I can go to, but I do want to experiment a little bit before we do this. So I'm going to cut this out and then I'm going to start kind of playing around with the elements and rearranging some stuff and seeing what we can come up with. I guess I should also mention, so not only am I using this as a placeholder for a photograph, I'm also using it as a placeholder as a cutout for the shoe. I think this is a pretty good size for a cutout of the shoe or shoes, depending on whichever variation of what I want to go with. So let's say I want to do a cutout of the shoe and I want to place it here. I can just build everything around and then I'll remove this and then I can insert it in post. Or if I do want to use just a straight up photograph and just map it to the confines of this box, I can move that around, build it out, and then insert the picture into the gray box. Easy peasy. So that's my thought process so far. So like I said, the easiest thing to do would be to put this thing here and then build out the stuff around it just like we've done before. But I want to try to do something a little bit different. So what I want to start off with is maybe something where we put the shoe on this side of the frame or this side of the frame, and then we build out the elements. Maybe it looks like it's coming this way or this way, almost like the elements are being blown across the page. I think that might give it some interesting, cool movement while still also contributing to the campaign as a whole. Now, if we do that, I think what I want to start with, so I think if we do that, what I want to do is I want to take this and put that over here as just kind of a placeholder for the Vans logo. And then, you know, if we don't like that, we can always change that out later. But I think that makes sense where we basically have the image of the shoe, all the elements kind of pushing this way, and then the logo and the tagline for the ad campaign. That's what I'm thinking. So I'm going to do that real quick. Basically this, that's what I'm thinking. If we have the shoe here, and I think the cutout of the shoe would look the coolest, just so it's not a box. I think that might look cooler. You have more of that kind of organic shape. So let's just get to adding some elements in and seeing what we can come up with. So I think first maybe we start off with this. Put all across the side here. I think that might work. Yeah, something like that. And then we can add some other elements kind of clustered up here, but as they move across the page, they start to kind of spread out. I think this might be a good spot to add some red, because I think that'll be a good way to catch the eye. So maybe that's down here or up here. Gonna cut out a decent chunk that we can then cut down to size. Yeah, like something like that. And I think proportionally this feels all right. I think the elements might be a little bit big, but I don't think they're too big to where it's gonna cause a problem. So I think we can actually work with this size of canvas. I think that makes sense. And now we have two things that are below the image, so maybe we put something on top. I'm gonna go see if I can find an image of a shoe that I can cut out and put on here as a placeholder. All right, I'm very glad I saved a bunch of stuff because what I wanna do is I wanna see what this looks like if we were to have just the shoe here. Yeah, because that feels drastically different than using this. So maybe we do need to use an actual picture instead of a cutout of the shoe. I feel like it's gonna be hard to kind of get the right balance of things. So yeah, for now, maybe we can come back to this idea. Maybe like that's what we do for the center version. I guess probably at this point I should just make two versions and see which one I like best. But let's go with this. That feels like the best way to go for right now. Maybe we change that later, but I like this so far. All right, so now I want to put something on the top of the image. There are two things behind us, so I want to put something on the top. Maybe something lighter like this. I wonder if this might be too big, but something like that. Yeah, like this. But I think maybe now you're kind of starting to see what I was saying, where the elements start getting a little bit sparser. So then maybe we put something here, up here. So that way it's kind of getting more spread out as it goes. So that way it's like, here's where like the interest of the image will be. And then here's where we can kind of separate the attention. So it's like, here's where you start because your eye is going to be drawn to this, all these interesting elements in the shoes. And then as it moves across the page, it lands on the company name and the tagline for the ad campaign. That's kind of what I'm thinking. So this might be a good time to use this, which I did go ahead and in Illustrator, I just rotated these because having it straight on like this is kind of hard to work with and kind of boring. So having it at an angle is a little bit more exciting, and it's actually how I would want to use it anyways. So maybe let's do like a square, maybe something about this big. So maybe something about this width, but longer, maybe. This just feel, I don't know, this just doesn't feel right. And if I move it to the center where I might feel like I should put it, it's just too small. So I think maybe, well, could be something like this. That looks okay. I like that. So then if we do that, if we keep that there for now, let's do something like this again. Might be too big, so maybe if we cut it down, but cut it in half almost. This is starting to feel all right. I like this. I like where it's going. I need to put, I'm gonna put this one in as a placeholder right under it. So originally I was thinking I would just erase the kind of lines that I might get, the shadow lines that I might get around the box from this piece of paper, but we might actually be able to lean into it, that it's kind of cut out and, you know, on the piece of paper, you know, put something behind it or underneath it. So that way it has more depth. And I think that'd be an easier way to incorporate some of these elements over here, so that way they can actually interact with these two elements rather than having to put them all around and not actually touching them. Because I think maybe we could do another sliver of this somewhere. I don't want to do anything major, just something real small. This might still be too much. Like, I want it to be real subtle, because I want the eye to be drawn to this side, not this side first. Yeah, I think that's kind of cool. I like this. I'm just trying to think, because I like I like these, but it feels very diagonal, but I also don't want to put this up here because then it feels like it's a little bit heavy on these up top. I guess I could switch this out with something else. I think that's okay. Maybe something here. Something on the bottom here to kind of fill all this space just a tiny bit. I think maybe we can use this, but cut it down again. Just something real subtle. So the only other element I haven't used is this one. I just felt a little bit repetitive with this being here, but maybe if we cover it, it won't be as noticeable. Maybe I just need something in the corner here, like that. No, I think I need something here, which that actually might do. Now that I'm like just kind of looking at it as a whole, this might be okay. I like this. This is okay. This is pretty cool. So I'm gonna tape everything down. I don't even know if I can fit this in my scanner. I might have to actually take a picture of it on my camera. So I'll have to figure that out. But yeah, let me tape everything down and then we'll see if I want to try something else with this as a kind of secondary option, and then we'll go from there. So let's work on a different layout that just has the shoe maybe in the center, maybe off to the side. Still trying to figure that out. But yeah, so we'll do it with the intention that we're going to use a cutout of the shoe in some way, which makes things a little bit more complicated. Fun, but complicated. So I actually want to start with this again. Yeah, because what I was just thinking is, oh, maybe we can use extra photographs like we did for the social media posts, but I don't know if that's going to be the best idea, just because it's a billboard, and basically wherever you see billboards, people are probably going to be driving their cars, or it's going to be like very far away. So I don't think smaller pictures are going to work as good as having like a big image like this that you can clearly see, rather than having like, you know, small images kind of dotted around. So I don't think I can do the exact same thing that I did for the social media posts. So that does limit us, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. So I mentioned this way earlier in the project, which is essentially just building up the background and then putting the shoe on top. That actually might be what I do here, because if not, I'm gonna have to print out more of these shoes and cut them out. And that's just gonna take way more time than I wanna do, or I'll just have to be very crafty with how I tape everything down. So that way I can take out the shoe, that's my placeholder, so that way in Photoshop, I can put in a different shoe. And that's what I'm thinking. So now that I'm thinking about it, kind of in the same way that we might not want to use extra smaller little images, we also might not want to put anything in front of it, because that just obscures the image and makes it harder to read. So I don't know if I actually want to put anything in front of it, even though that would be arguably better for making the image feel more dynamic. But I feel like that's just gonna reduce the legibility of it. And if this was a billboard, I would want to make sure that if you're driving a car or something, you know what the billboard is for. You know what the image is that you're supposed to be seeing, and you don't have to make a second look. So I think that would actually be the smartest thing to do. All right, so now that I kind of have this in place, and that's okay so far, I'm wondering if maybe something like that. This is a little bit too big, but you know, you kind of get the idea. So this would take up this part of the image. We could shift this over. So basically we have this to work with as our collage canvas, and this would be where the Vans logo goes. Which I feel like that's okay. I feel like that works. I'm gonna keep this here as a placeholder, but it's obviously way too big than it needs to be. But that will be where that goes. We could put an image here, just on an image of the shoe. That might work. It's like a big one like this. I was thinking more of a rectangle, but I used the only one that I printed out in the last one, and I don't feel like printing another one out. So we'll just use this for now. something like that. Actually, I'll make it a little bit smaller than this, just so they're not too close. And, well, I don't mind this size, although I might, well, actually, let's put this, move this on top of here. I like that. I can dig that. I mean, this is already looking okay. There could be something where I do like a angled piece. That could be cool. Also complicated. Yeah, like that. Yeah. Ironically, this kind of matches with the shoe. It's almost like a shadow. And then maybe we put this here as well. Oh yeah, that kind of... So maybe this is what we go with. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tape this down, and if I want to, I can always replace this in Photoshop. I can just drop the shoe on top and cut it out and just make it slightly bigger so that way it covers this shoe. That way I can change it if I want, or I can make it a more high fidelity photo than a printout of a shoe. And then from there, I'll just have to decide which route I like better. So that way I can just repeat this process for the other, 3 designs for the other 3 different shoes, and then we'll be golden on the billboards. So yeah, let me do that and we'll see where we end up. All right, so I'm just filming this as a quick little update. So it's been a couple days since I came up with those last designs, and I landed on using this one. So I'm gonna work on coming up with the variations right now, and then after that we can move on to the magazine ad layouts.